In this video, I want to explore a little bit around the relationship between the reports library and the reports menu. The reports menu being that secondary navigation that contains the collections, the topics, and the reports. Because it's not always a one-to-one relationship. Not every report, both detailed and overview reports we create, have to exist in the menu itself. And now, that's quite interesting actually in terms of how we can use that to our advantage, but let's just start with some of the out-of-the-box hidden reports. It's not quite as sexy as I'm making it out to be, but there's a couple of reports that are hidden in the navigation that are accessible via the kind of default collections and topics in Google Analytics 4. So let's start there and have a look at some of the things that we can see. So the first one, it might be quite a mission actually on Google's part, but when you connect Google Analytics 4 to Google Ads and Google Search Console, you can, and you get the data inside of Google Analytics 4 and vice versa, but it doesn't add any collections, topics, reports to the menu, which means it's not obvious to know where to go to get at that data. And so they do exist. These reports do exist and the data does exist in the interface. We just have to know where to go. And actually, this is an interesting way of approaching it. So I think Google should have maybe created a collection or at least a topic of these reports in the navigation, but they haven't. What they have done though, if we go to the overview acquisition report under the lifecycle collection, we scroll down, there's a couple of summary cards that are specific to both Google Ads and also Google Search Console. And if I click through, I can go into, say, the Google Ads one. It takes me into a report that is not in the menu, not in the left-hand navigation. And that's the important thing here. These are the secret reports you can only access via the blue links on the summary cards in the overview reports. But if I scroll down here, the thing that's interesting about them is the fact that they contain Google Ads data. I've got Google Ads clicks, Google Ads cost, and also cost per click pulled from Google Ads. Another way, or another example actually, is looking at the Search Console reports in exactly the same way. There's actually two overview cards for Search Console. I've got my view Google organic traffic acquisition data, but I've also got my search queries, and I'm going to go into that one now. And going into this detail report, again, it's not in the menu on the left-hand side. That means I'm not, you notice that I'm not leaving, in a sense, or at least visually not leaving the acquisition overview report, but obviously I have. But I can now see that I'm looking at the Google Organic Search Query as the dimension, and I've got actually no GA4 data in here whatsoever. I'm just looking at the Search Console data. I've got Google Organic Search Clicks, Google Organic Search Impressions, click-through rates, average position. And so this is a really interesting report considering it contains no GA4 data whatsoever. But again, it's not in the interface, it's just accessed via this overview card. It's not to say you can't add it into its own collection, an existing topic, or create a new topic for it somewhere. So you can drag these reports in from the reports library and you can add them into the navigation yourself. But out of the box, Google doesn't do that for you, for whatever reason, especially the Google Search Console and the Google Ad stuff. So that's one way, is that there are some reports like that you'll notice that don't actually exist in the menu, but you can still open them. All reports that Google Analytics 4 has are accessible, even if they're not in that reports menu. And that's the important thing, and the thing that I want to lean into a little bit now, to think about how can we use this to our advantage. Because if I go and create a report in the reports library, I can do that. I can create loads of reports. I can create overview and detail reports, and I don't have to add them into a collection or a topic in the menu. So I don't actually have to add it to the navigation whatsoever, but I can create a bunch of reports. And the reason why that can be useful is because, let's say let's say there's 100 people with access to Google Analytics 4. If I've got a report that I like to use, there's actually kind of no point me adding that to the navigation, because everyone, all other 99 people that are having access to GA4, they're not going to need that report. It's not of any use to them, but it is of use to me. And so now, because whatever we do in the reports navigation, whatever we do in the interface is going to be seen by everyone logging into GA4, I don't want to do that. I just want to keep it for myself. And so what I can do is I can create a report in the library, and I can open up the report just like we've done with these other kind of like secret reports. And then I can just maybe bookmark that or just keep a link to it somewhere. If I forget the link, it's not that hard to find. I'll go into the reports library, find my report, and open it that way instead. I just don't go via the navigation on the left-hand side. I go into the library and see it that way. So it's a really interesting concept both ways. One, I think, slight omission from Google where they haven't added in some reports that are really useful to people, the Search Console and the Google Ads reports, into the navigation, but you can still access them. Go have a look at the overview reports and have a look at some of the summary cards and click through the blue links there. But the other way is thinking about how can we use this kind of feature to our advantage, and that's actually having a bank of reports that we've got that we, for whatever reason, don't want to include it in the navigation, but still want to use them ourselves. And that's a really useful feature, because remember, the reports library and the reports menu are not a one-to-one relationship. You don't have to have every single report you've created in the menu. You can have reports that exist outside of the menu. And again, that can be a really useful feature. There we go. That's the difference between the reports library and the reports menu, and how we can use that to our advantage, and also finding some little secret reports, well, not so secret reports that Google's set up for us. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you in the next one.